Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
How are you?
Great. How about you?
I'm good.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge. Your Honor, I was not able to interview one inmate from Alpharetta jail. I have been trying to call them, so I was wondering if I can get either breakout room or maybe they can answer my phone to interview an inmate from Alpharetta jail. His name is Rodney Hill.
You hear that, courtroom 2? Position 8, Mr. Hill.
That's Alpharetta jail. I don't have no control over that.
Don't have trouble, yeah. We'll see how it goes, PD Kim.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let me call the calendar. We'll get started. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Judge Regina Mincy. We're going to begin our Fulton County State Court Expedited Accusations calendar. This is a calendar for cases in which individuals have recently been arrested and charged with certain misdemeanor offenses. Soon after their arrest, Fulton County Solicitor General's office has already accused these cases of the offenses brought against them, and the cases have been bound over to the Fulton County State Court. Nevertheless, this will usually be the defendant's initial appearance before a state court judge, so we are able to address several matters, including bond, possible arraignment, and a possible plea offer if one has been made by the state at this juncture. I'm also going to be providing you with a reset date for SAP. What is that?
It is June the 20th.
Okay, June 20th. So everyone, that is the date. Also, I want to advise everyone that this whole entire proceeding is being recorded as well as live streamed on YouTube. So govern yourselves accordingly. I want to remind the defendants that you have certain constitutional rights. The first being that you have a right to representation at this juncture in your case. You should know who your attorneys are at this point and who you're represented by. Also, I want to remind the defendants on this calendar that you do have a constitutional right to remain silent. Anything that you state about the facts, the circumstances, and the occurrences can and will be used against you. So again, listen to your attorneys. All right, who do we have first, deputies?
Position number 1, Atkinson.
Okay. This is case number 23 CR 003624A, Brittany Atkinson. You're charged with one count of battery family violence. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Judge. The fly lawyer for Ms. Atchison.
Okay.
And Your Honor, position 11, Devin Lambert is the cross defendant on this case.
Okay.
So if we could potentially address both of them at the same time, that would be helpful.
All right, let me call position 11. Let's see, hold on. And position 11 is 23 CR 00365Y, Quentin Martin, charged with one count of battery family violence. This, I have the offense date on position number 1 as June the 6th, 2023. And then the position on position 12 as September 23rd, 2022. So I don't know, is that a?
No, this is the same case.
Okay, so it's
What I
just a
can see,
misprint on my calendar.
it may be, yes.
Okay, because I was wondering, I thought, wait a minute, I have a different offense date on that second case. And the second case is not, doesn't have private counsel. Does Mr.
Not to
Martin?
my knowledge, I'm not sure who is representing Mr. Lambert.
Okay. All right, Mr. Patterson, you're just with
I am
position.
representing Mr. Lambert. Good afternoon.
Oh.
Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Ms. McLeod. Okay, so you're conflict defender on.
Judge, it's position number 11 for Lambert, not 12.
Oh, maybe that's why I have the wrong the wrong date. I'm sorry, I called the wrong second case. Position 11. Is that what you have, Deputy for Mr.
Yes,
Lambert?
I have position 11, Devin Lambert.
I'm sorry, I called the wrong case. 23 CR 003630A, Devin Lambert, charged with one count of battery violence with the offense date is June 6, 2023. Sorry about that. All right, now we're on the same page. All right, pretrial,
So who we on?
position 1,
Atkinson?
yes,
Got first arrest.
okay. And then what about position 11, which is Lambert?
10th arrest. Last arrest was in January. Suspended registration, suspended license. That's open. You got open shoplifting. On probation for shoplifting from a 22 CR case. That's it.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Deputy Falk.
Yes, Your Honor, I just want to make it known for the court, the case on that theft by shoplifting is 22 CR 005324A. He also is a multi-state offender. He has the 10 cycles are split between Georgia and South Carolina.
All right,
So this incident occurred on June 6th, 2023 at 3:53 a.m. Officers were approached by defendant Atkinson, who they actually had known because they had been to her home prior numerous times, according to the report, in response to domestic disputes. Defendant Atkinson told the police that defendant Lambert had damaged 2 of her phones. At that point, the officers relocated to defendant Atkinson and Lambert's home at 1804 Mercer Avenue in College Park and made contact with defendant Lambert. Both of the defendants had scratches and bruises on their wrist, which is notated in the report. Defendant Lambert also had bruises to his neck. Defendant Atkinson told police that after they had left earlier that day, she confined herself in a bathroom to get away from defendant Lambert. Defendant Atkinson then stated that defendant Lambert came to the bathroom to agitate her, left, and came back with a knife, which is when she pushed him and a fight ensued. According to defendant Lambert, he stated he was in his room. Defendant Atkinson came to try to talk to him. Defendant Lambert refused. And he stated that is when defendant Atkinson became upset and tried to choke him. So the officers, and I will emphasize, the officers in the report stated they have been out to this address numerous times, brought medication out to that address, attempted to, mediate this before it got to this point. So at that point, the officers arrested both of the individuals. I will say that it is clear based on the police report that these two, for whatever reason, cannot seem to interact or be in the same residence at this point with one another. There have been multiple calls out to that address. The police knew her by sight because of how many times they've been out there, including that day. Defendant Lambert has the more extensive history. We are going to be asking for a $3,000 surety bond on defendant Lambert. We're also going to ask for a stay away from 1804 Mercer Avenue in College Park. No further contact with Brittany Atkinson. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons. For defendant Atkinson, this is her first arrest. We will be recommending a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services. That she attend 1 day of anger awareness, that she have no further contact with Devin Lambert, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. That's all for the state.
all right. Patterson,
Your Honor, we totally agree with the state in this matter. It is actually my client's residence, and that's why the state is asking that Mr. Lambert not be required to not be allowed to return to that location. But we are wholeheartedly in agreement with the state's position on the bond recommendation provided by the state.
okay. All right, let me handle this one first, Ms. McLeod, and then I'll come to you, okay? All right, let me go ahead and enter an order in position 1 with Ms. Atkinson for $5,000 signature bond through pretrial. I'm going to order that she take the 1 day anger awareness course through pretrial. I'm going to order no further contact with Devin Lambert. And no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. Is there
Thank you,
anything else with that case, counsel?
No, Judge.
No,
Okay.
Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, and then on the second position, Mr. Lambert, position 11, go ahead, Ms. McLeod.
Your Honor, my client is 37 years old. He tells me he is college educated, and he's gainfully employed for the airlines. He denied that this was anything other than a verbal altercation between them, Your Honor. He tells me that they have been in a relationship for the past 3 years, that they are raising 2 children together, one of whom is his, one of whom is hers. They don't share children, but they're raising 2 children together. He also tells me that the house that they live in, that both of their names is on the deed for this house, Your Honor. Of course, if the court determines that they can no longer live together, my client does tell me that he has somewhere else that he can live. I noticed that the state has said that he's had some arrests, but based on what I heard from pretrial, none of these arrests were for anything violent. I would therefore ask the court to consider giving him a signature bond so he can get out of jail and get back to work. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. In this case of Devin Lambert, I'm going to order a $3,000 surety bond. I'm going to order a stay away from the incident location. And that is, I believe, 1804 Mercer Avenue.
That is the address we have, Your Honor, in College Park.
Okay, in College Park. I'm going
We
to
have a
order-
one-time police escort, Your Honor, to go back there to get his belongings.
State has
Yes.
no objection.
Okay, one-time escort to return to retrieve his personal items. Remember, Mr. Lambert, you are to have a police escort. Do not go back by yourself. Also, I'm going to order Mr. Lambert to take a one-day anger awareness course. Seems like he would have the means to be able to pay for that. And stay away from the residence. I said that. Oh, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And I'm not going to order anything about visitation at this point. I'll leave that up to the parties to sort that out since they don't have any children together. Anything else, counsel?
I'm sure Your Honor said no further contact, but I just wanted to make sure I had it.
Oh,
on.
make sure I say no further contact with the other co-defendant or victim, Brittany Atkinson. All right, anything else, counsel?
No, Your Honor, that's all the fly lawyer have. May I be excused?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I'm sure the litigation manager did put this out there, but what is the SAP reset date, Ms. Bridgewater?
June
June
20th.
20th.
Thank you, Ms. Bridgewater.
All right, who do we have next, Deputy?
Position number 3, Ms. Beria.
This is 23 CR 003626Y. Sadie Beria, charged with 1 count of affray or fighting. Offense date June 6, 2023. Pretrial.
First arrest.
Thank
And
you.
Your Honor, Ms. Beria has a co-defendant as well. That is Nathaniel Holmes, a cross-defendant, and that is position 9 on the calendar.
All right, are we doing those together?
We would request that they be addressed together for expediency's sake.
Right. The second case, position 9, is 23 CR 003629Y, Nathaniel Holmes Jr. Again, charged with the 1 count of affray and fighting. Offense date June 6, 2023. Is that your case, Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Got
go ahead,
19
Deputy.
total.
I'm sorry. Yes, give me his, Mr. Holmes's history, if any.
19 total. 2017 failure to appear. 16 robbery no-low. 2014 theft by taking conviction, probation. 2012 selling marijuana conviction, probation. 2010 trespass, simple battery, reproduction of recorded material conviction. That's it.
All right, go ahead, Deputy Falk.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened June 6, 2023 at around 11:20 p.m. at the 41 10th Street Northwest MARTA station. That's going to be MARTA Midtown. Officers were dispatched to a domestic altercation that occurred on the stairwell. And when they arrived, they saw the two defendants grabbing each other's shirt collars in an aggressive manner, screaming and cursing. Both of the defendants were at that time arrested. Officers then went back and viewed the CCTV cameras, which showed both of them punching, pushing, and beating and choking each other. We did have an opportunity to look at defendant's Holmes history. He does have a 2011 conviction for family violence simple battery, a 2011 conviction for family violence battery and obstruction, a 2021 probation violation, as well as a 2017 conviction for robbery out of Clayton County. So there is a history here of not only family violence battery, but of just violence in general, especially as it pertains to the robbery, and a failure to comply with the rules of the court as it pertains to the probation violation. For those reasons, the state's recommendation on Mr. Holmes's case, he already has a $2,000 surety bond set on his case. We are asking that remain as set. We are also requesting a stay away from Midtown MARTA, no further contact with Miss Berea, Sadie Berea, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. As to defendant Berea, this is her first arrest. For that reason, we are recommending a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services, stay away from Midtown MARTA station, no further contact with Nathaniel Holmes, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. According to the warrant, Your Honor, it appears that these two do not live at the same place. I'm sure one of either the conflict public defender or the public defender will let me know if that's incorrect. So we are not at this time asking for a stay away from their respective homes.
Okay. All right. Let me hear about the Mr. Holmes. And I understand that's Ms. McLeod, or is that P.D. Wills? Ms. McLeod?
Yes, that's me, Your Honor.
Okay. I can go ahead and.
Your Honor, I spoke to both of them. I think it got a little mixed up, so I want to find out who Ms. Willis is representing.
Mr. Holmes, we've previously represented him in the past.
Okay, so I am representing Ms. Berea, Your Honor. As Petrala has pointed out, this is her first arrest. She's 36 years old. She tells me that she is gainfully employed. She has 6 boys, and she is a stay-at-home mom taking care of these 6 boys. She's never been arrested. I would ask the court to give her a signature bond so she can get out of jail and get back home to taking care of her boys. She does not live with Mr. Holmes at all, and they do not share any children.
Okay. All right, I will grant that $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. I'm going to order the stay away from MARTA, that's the Midtown station. I'm going to order no further contact with Mr. Holmes. And I'm going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond.
Your Honor, in my apologies for interrupting, state did omit a one-day anger awareness class as part of pretrial services.
Right, and I will order that one-day anger awareness as part of pretrial. Anything else on that case?
Nothing from the state.
Nothing.
All right.
Your Honor.
Thank you. And on the co-defendant, which is position 9, Nathaniel Holmes, I'm going to continue.
Your Honor.
Oh, I'm sorry, you haven't presented. I apologize. Go ahead, PD Wills.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes is a native of Georgia. He is employed through a temp service where he does construction work and will not qualify for our services. He denies the allegations as alleged and states that he never punched, pushed, or choked the cross defendant. He states that he is unable to afford the $2,000 surety bond. He does not have any family that reside here in the state. And so he has no assistance and no way to afford that bond. We would request that the bond be reduced if the court is not inclined to grant him a signature bond.
That's the date of arrest, June 7th.
Yes, Your Honor. And my
Okay.
client would like to have no further violent contact with his cross defendant.
Okay,
And yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred last night at around 11:20 PM. So it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. We would object to the no further violent contact at this time.
all right. I want to make sure there's been the ample cooling down and that the victim in this case will be safe. So I'm going to continue with the $2,000 surety bond. I'm going to order a stay away from MARTA Midtown Station. I'm going to order no further contact with Miss Vieira, if I'm pronouncing that correct. I'm going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And in that order, I think we check, we'll make sure we check the box that he's to have no further contact with her wherever she may be, not through social media, other third parties, and staying 200 yards away from her. I'm not going to put the address in there because it didn't occur at her home, but that would probably be included with the stay away from 200 yards from her. So make sure you're clear on that, Mr. Holmes. It's no further contact in any manner. All right, that should conclude those cases. All right, position 5, thank you.
Brisbane,
23 CR 003628F. Sabrina Brisbane, charged with 1 count of battery family violence, 2nd count of cruelty to children in 3rd degree, offense date June 6, 2023. Pre-trial.
6 arrests. Last was 2019 violation of family violence order conviction. Well, DV, I'm sorry. 2017 financial transaction card theft by taking, first offender. State.
Yes, thank you, pretrial. This happened June 6, 2023 at 12:24 a.m. at 775 Juniper Street Northeast, apartment 429. Lauren Knight, who Your Honor is here in the Zoom, and we would ask to sound for her after we finish going over the facts of this case, stated that her living girlfriend, the defendant, struck her in the face. There had been an ongoing argument between the two due to the defendant breaking Miss Knight's laptop. Miss Knight told police that she decided to separate herself from the defendant, went into another room with her son, JK. While they were laying on the bed, defendant came into Knight's room, punched her in the face, and then walked out. The officers were able to observe swelling to the right side of Miss Knight's face. Our victim advocate did have an opportunity to speak with Miss Knight. She did confirm that the two of them are in a relationship and live together at the incident location. She also confirmed with our victim advocate the events that occurred in the warrant that we have just stated to Your Honor. She stated that this has never happened before. It was a day of heated arguments, and she stated she does want contact and wants the defendant to return. The state's concerns with that are this. One, we have a 2021 conviction for a violation of a domestic violence order. We did have an opportunity to call DeKalb County. That does involve a different victim, but does show a pattern of a risk of reoffense. Additionally, the defendant had a 2017 case for family violence, battery, and criminal trespass out of Clayton County. Although those cases were dismissed, they did involve different victims, but they were of a family violence nature. And for those reasons, that gives us, along with that 2021 conviction for violation of protective order, a very serious concern of a risk of reoffense. Lastly, there hasn't been the sufficient cooling off period here. This happened June 6th. So yesterday, so we are very concerned that bringing this defendant back into the home when this incident occurred in the presence of Miss Knight's child puts both of them at risk. For that reason, the state is recommending a $3,000 surety bond, stay away from 775 Juniper Street Northeast, apartment 429, no further contact with Lauren Knight, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. We did add the charge of cruelty to children in the 3rd degree, so that breakdown will be $2,500 on the battery family violence and $500 on the cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. That's all for the state. And we would like to sound for Miss Knight at this time.
All right, Ms. Lauren Knight.
First, I want to
Hold on.
apologize.
Hold on. I need to see you to speak with you. Your camera went out. Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right. I can, but if you want to address the court, I need to swear you in first. Do you wish to
Okay.
address the court? All right, raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under the penalty of perjury?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, what would you like to tell me?
I would like to first start out by apologizing that Sabrina's even there. This is not the norm. I understand that there was a history listed, which I was aware of in this relationship, which is why this is all unfortunate. I had been drinking that night, and I do feel like I antagonized her, and it built. Not to take any blame away from us, we're both accountable, but this is something that we do talk about. We both are willing to counsel for. We do co-parent together, and I think it was also a result as living with our friends, sharing a kid's bedroom, bunk bed situation, just like a pressure cooker. But and I also wanted to correct something. When the officer came, he asked me about Sabrina's eye, not about my eye. So it was not, and it wasn't, me and Sabrina did not start that argument. We had, like I said, we've been arguing all day. I went to the separate room.
Let me ask you this. This is not your hearing before the court for the facts of the case.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to make it clear because I understand how it looks to people that don't know her. Sabrina's not a violent person. She's not a danger to my child. This is not a reflection of her character. This is legitimately a mistake. And I do want her to come home. My son wants her to come home, and we want to rehabilitate our family. If we decide to not be in a relationship post this, we are mature enough to make that decision and separate. But I do want her to come home.
How old is your child?
He's 13.
All right. You're stating you're not in fear of Ms. Brisbane?
No, actually, I miss her tremendously.
Okay. All right. Any cross-examination, Deputy Falk?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Knight, how are you today?
I'm feeling a little anxious and sad, to be honest.
That's understandable. Okay, I know you spoke with our victim advocate. Did you explain to her, just asking you flat out, did the defendant strike you in the face, Ms. Brisbane?
Did I explain to her that she struck me in the face? Yes, I did. I did. I told her that did take place. It was after I had tried to push Sabrina out of the room. So there's a lot of, it was, again, not one person's fault, and it was not, it's not something that's normal. And I think both of us being in this situation know better. I don't, even hearing these previous charges, I don't want to ever be in a situation where we can't see each other. She can't see my son, because we are a family unit. And the rest of her family does not live in Georgia. So I just, want her to come home.
And is it correct that this happened in the presence of JK?
Yes.
Okay.
Who is also here. He wants her to come home too.
That's all the state has, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any cross-examination, PD Wills?
No, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead. You may present.
Ms. Brisbane is 33 years old. She has resided in the state of Georgia for the past 7 years. She is a freelance graphic designer and does qualify to be represented by the Public Defender's Office. She has a high school diploma. And in speaking with her, she was stating that the incident location belongs to a mutual friend of both Ms. Knight's and Ms. Brisbane's, and that it was actually Ms. Brisbane who called law enforcement. She stated that Ms. Knight had been drinking, that they were engaged in a verbal argument, that Ms. Brisbane actually tried to separate herself, tried to leave. And Ms. Knight prevented her from doing so. My client denies that she ever struck Ms. Knight, and that she was actually injured and that she was hit and struck by Ms. Knight. It was very curious that in the warrant that I received, there was no mention of any statements that were obtained from my client, Ms. Brisbane, when she stated that she is the one who called law enforcement first, and they spoke with her when they came to the residence. However, all of her statements were omitted from their report. I would request a signature on bond. If Your Honor is not so inclined, I would ask for a $1,000 surety bond. My client states that at this time, she does not desire to have any contact with Ms. Knight. I would also ask the court not to take in consideration past cases from years ago that have that were dismissed. So for all those reasons, I do think a signature on bond is appropriate in this case.
All right. I'm going to order the $3,000 surety bond. I'm going to order no further contact with the victim. I don't think we've had 24 hours to pass yet. So I want to make sure there's been the ample cooling down period. I want to make sure that the victim and her son will be safe. I'm going to order a stay away from the incident location, which is 775 Juniper Street Northeast, apartment 429. I will allow a one-time police escort for Ms. Brisbane to return to get her personal items while on bond. I'm going to order no further drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And I think that's all I'll order at this time.
And Your
Judge,
Honor,
write down that bond.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2,500 on the battery, 500 on the cruelty.
Thank
and
you.
and Your Honor, the incident location belongs to a mutual friend. She states that Miss Knight, my client stated that Miss Knight actually has another residence where she can go. So I would ask that my client be allowed to return to that apartment or to that residence if Miss
I
Knight
don't
may be-
currently, the other residence that she's referring to is not cleaned out or available for me to move into at this time. So that's not actually a factual statement. I also would like to ask a question when time permits.
All right, I
So-
will, go ahead.
Also, I did want to note that I neglected to mention that Miss Brisbane told me that law enforcement told her that she was arrested because no one could corroborate her story. When Miss Knight, the only corroboration she had was from her own 13-year-old child.
All right. I'm going to stick with the ruling that I've already given. Let me see what Miss, where did she go? Miss Knight?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Is there something else you needed to say to the court to consider?
Yes, I just wanted to ask because you were speaking about a proper cooling down period, because the defendant and I do also work together and things like that. Is this no contact a thing of permanence, or is there a time staple on this, or how does that all work? I guess is my question.
I cannot give you any general legal advice, but
Okay.
as long as the bond is in place, you'd have no contact. And so
Okay.
I can't tell you that it'll be in place for 2 weeks, 2 months,
Right.
2 years, just
Right.
how the case progresses. So that is something you can talk to the victim witness advocate, possibly with the solicitor's office. And these conditions will continue as long as Miss Brisbane is on bond, and as long as this case is open.
Okay.
Okay.
What was the total bond, Judge?
$3,000 surety.
Position 6, Gray.
This is 23 CR 003632A, Jamario Gray, simple assault, 2 counts. Offense date June 6, 2023, pretrial.
First,
Okay. State,
Yes, good afternoon, Judge Mancy.
good afternoon.
Yes, this incident occurred yesterday at the Emory Midtown Hospital at 550 Peachtree Streets. And this is where security officers Green and Singleton informed police officers that after having a disorderly conduct reference involving the defendant, they asked the defendant to leave room 4702. And that's when the defendant made an advance toward them, raising his arms in a manner that made the security officers fear being injured. For these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $4,000 signature bond, $2,000 per charge through pretrial services, no further contact with security officers Green or Singleton, And to stay away from Emory Midtown Hospital at 550 Peachtree Street unless he's having a medical emergency.
All right. PD Wills?
No objection to the signature bond. I would just like it noted for the record that my client does deny the allegations as reported by the state.
All right. I will enter the $4,000 signature bond through pretrial. I will order a stay away from the Emory Midtown Hospital at 550 Peachtree Street, unless the defendant is in need of medical attention, but as a visitor, he should not go there. I'm also going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. I'm going to order no further contact with the officers at Emory, officers Green and Singleton. And that's all I'll order at this time. And that breakdown is 2,000 on each of the charges. Is there anything else, counsel?
Nothing from the state.
All right. Thank you.
Position 2, Barnes.
And Your Honor, Barnes also has a cross defendant. That's going to be Miss Bowens, which I believe is position 3 on the count, position 4 on the calendar.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. This is 23 CR 003625E, Sharice Barnes, charged with 1 count of battery, offense date June 6th. I'm gonna call the second case of the cross defendant, which is Erica Bowens, 23 CR 003627E, charged with 1 count of battery in the same offense I'm sorry, pretrial.
All right, Barnes first.
Okay.
8th arrest. No, I'm doing her first. 8th arrest. Last arrest was back in July. Disorderly conduct in the cab. 2015 simple assault conviction. 2014 failure to pay fare. That was in another state. You ready for Bowens?
Yes.
5th arrest. Last was 2021 battery DV. Got an open simple battery DV, and disorderly conduct. 2019 disorderly conduct conviction, and 2013 failure to appear. That's it.
Okay. All right, Deputy Falk.
Yes, Your Honor, this happened June 6, 2023 at 707 Neal Street Northwest, apartment 400. When officers arrived, they observed that defendant Sharice Barnes was bleeding. She stated that defendant Erica Bowens, her girlfriend, had cut her. Defendant Barnes then stated that they were in a verbal altercation, and she asked defendant Bowen to call her an Uber. While waiting, the argument continued, and according to defendant Barnes, defendant Bowen told her to get out of the apartment. Defendant Bowen then presented a knife, but according to defendant Barnes, she was not threatening her, but defendant Barnes stated she was cut as she was leaving with her hands raised. When officers spoke to defendant Erica Bowens, she stated that defendant Barnes refused to leave her residence and then attacked her, biting her lip and causing a visible laceration. Defendant Bowens also claimed that defendant Barnes's wounds were self-inflicted while she was trying to attack her. No weapon was located. Both individuals were arrested and taken to Grady and then to Fulton County Jail. Miss Barnes had a laceration, and Miss Barnes had a laceration to her hand. Miss Bowens had a laceration to her lip. The history of defendant Bowens and Barnes does show some simple assault convictions. Again, starting with defendant Barnes, she has that 2015 simple assault conviction. She currently has an open disorderly conduct from July of 2022 from Brookhaven. The state's recommendation is to defendant Barnes is going to be a $3,000 surety bond. Stay away from 707 Neal Street Northwest, because according to the report, that is defendant Bowen's residence. Apartment 400, no further contact with Erica Bowens, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Defendant Bowens has a little bit more of an extensive history. She does have a 2021 family violence battery that is currently open in DeKalb County. We had an opportunity to speak with DeKalb County. It is not the same victim as in our current case. She also had a family violence battery dismissed in DeKalb, but was convicted of the underlying offense of disorderly conduct. Again, that was not the same victim. However, there have been 2 previous cases, one that is still open and one prior case that was reduced to a disorderly conduct, which shows that there may be a risk of reoffense here. For that reason, the state is recommending a $5,000 surety bond, no further contact with Sharice Barnes, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. We are not requesting a stay away since it does not appear these 2 live together.
All right. PD Wills or Ms. McLeod, which one? PD Wills?
I'll proceed as to Ms. Barnes. Ms. Barnes is 27 years old. She has resided in the state of Georgia for 3 years. She is employed with Chime Solutions, and she works in their fraud department. She will not qualify to be represented by the Public Defender's Office. She does have a high school diploma and does not have any children. My client states that it was Ms. Bowen, obviously, who cut her, and that injury was noted. And she does deny the allegations as alleged as they pertain against her. I would request a signature on bond. And if your honor is not so inclined, I would ask for a $1,000 surety bond. My client states that she and Ms. Bowen are no longer in a relationship, and she does not desire to have any further contact with her and does not intend to do so.
Okay. As to Defendant Barnes, I'm going to order the $3,000 surety bond. I'm going to order no further contact with Erica Bowens. I'm going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And that's all I will order at this time.
Your Honor,
$3,000 surety. Yes.
as to Defendant Barnes, we are requesting that the stay away from 707 Neal Street Northwest, apartment 400. That is not her address, according to the police report. If I'm wrong, I'm sure one of the either the PD or the conflict PD will let me know.
All right, on the stay away, can we ensure Ms. Barnes does not live at that location, the 707 Neal Street Northwest?
She
Is
does
that
not.
correct?
She does not, Your Honor. That is my client's residence.
All right. All right, so I will order a stay away from the 707 Neal Street Southwest. Apartment 400. All right, and let's go ahead, Ms. McLeod, on Erica Bowens.
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 32 years old. She has some college education. She is gainfully employed as a chef. She denied that she was the aggressor in this incident, Your Honor, and she tells me that she has lacerations on her lip, on her stomach, and other areas of her body. She is okay with no further contact with the cross-defendant, Your Honor, and they stay away from her home because this is her home. I understand that my client does have some history, Your Honor, but in this case, she was absolutely not the aggressor, and she was the one who called the police officers for help. I would ask the court to consider giving my client a signature bond, but if the court is disinclined to do so, as low a bond as possible, so that she's able to get out of work, get out of jail and get back to work. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, I will order a $4,000 surety bond. I'm going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. I'm going to order no further contact with Sharice Barnes. And I guess that'll be it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right,
I'm sorry, Judge, what was the bond?
that was a $4,000 surety.
Thank you.
I think I should have known that she was going to my last one. So they didn't have that.
Position 10,
King. Are they both ready?
All right, this is 23 CR 003634J. Jeremy King, charge of 1 count of driving, hit and run. Duty of driver to stop or return to the scene of an accident. And a 2nd count of driving following too close on April the 11th, 2021. Is that the correct incident date?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, pre-trial.
16 total. Last arrest was 2020. Harassing phone calls, terroristic threats. On probation in Clayton for sale of marijuana. In 2014, they gave him 10 years probation for that. What else? Got a hold out of Clayton County. 2020, assault on a female that was dismissed. 2019, probation. 2018, trespass, NOLO. 2016, battery, trespass, conviction. That's it.
All right, state.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm also showing that the defendant has 2 open cases, one for aggravated assault. The case number on that is 23 CP 219142. And then the other case is criminal damage to property. And that case number is 23 CP 2191. Oh, well, no, that all goes with the aggravated assault. I'm sorry. It's not a different case number.
Okay.
Same case number, just 2 charges to that case. But this incident occurred April 11, 2021, and this is where officers were dispatched to Interstate 7585 in response to a multi-car accident. And when they arrived, the officers spoke with the witnesses. One of them told the officer that the at-fault driver had fled the scene. And the other witness, Mr. C. Wellington, who was hit by the defendant, he also stated that the at-fault driver fled the scene. And then the other witness who was on the scene was the owner of the vehicle that the defendant was driving. His name is Darius Johnson. And so Mr. Johnson told officers that he let the defendant use his car, that he didn't know what the defendant's real name was, but he called him Dro, and that they used to be neighbors. Mr. Johnson did give officers the defendant's phone number. And then according to the G.Hero truck, there was a third car that had fled the scene that was registered to a Juliet Daniels. And so when officers were investigating this case further, they contacted Ms. Daniels about the accident, and she stated that her car was not in an accident, but on that day, her daughter was driving the car, and that she had went to the scene of the car accident because her brother, the defendant, was involved in the car accident, and he was driving the car that was in the accident, which was a Malibu. Furthermore, Ms. Daniels gave the officer the same number that Mr. Johnson gave the officer for the defendant, which was Mr. Jeremy King. And when officers contacted the defendant, he did say that he was involved in an accident and that he fled the scene because he thought his license had expired, Your Honor. For all of these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $1,500 surety bond, $1,000 for the hit and run, and $500 for following too closely, as well as no driving unless the defendant has a valid driver's license, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Okay. PD Kim.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. King is 32 years old. He was born and raised here in Georgia. And Your Honor, he has 2 minor children that he has to take care of. He's paying actually $266 for child support every month. And after deducting the child support, he makes, he does not make a lot of money, so he's qualified for public defender services. Your Honor, it is more important for him to go back to work. He does furniture, junkman, he delivers the furnitures, and it is more important for him to work and pay for the child support. And we would like to request for a signature on bond. And if your honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond because of other charges that is open right now, we would like to request for maximum $500 good bond. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to order the $1,500 surety bond, $1,000 on the driving hit and run, $500 on the following too close. I'm going to order no driving unless he has a valid driver's license through DDS. I'm going to order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And I guess that'll be it. Anything else, council?
Nothing for this expense.
Okay.
Position 15, Stivers.
This is 23 CR 003637F, Amanda Stivers. Charge at 1 count of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, bench date June 1st, 2023, pretrial.
17 total. Last arrest was 2022. Criminal attempt to commit a felony and trespass. Got an open home invasion, first degree, burglary, first degree, obstruction. It's 22 SC 182017. The criminal attempt to commit burglary, trespass, and damage to property. That one is 22 CP 205985. Open theft by taking in state court. 2021 possession of heroin. 2021 theft by taking. 2020 probation FTA. 2019 obstruction conviction and the 2019 probation. That's it.
All right. State.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred June 1st of this year at 504 Day Street. And this is where officers received reports that the defendant was outside of this residence arguing with one of her friends. So when officers pulled up to this resident, they laid eyes on the defendant laid eyes on the officers, and then she walked into the house. When officers approached the residence, they spoke with the defendant's mother and her sister, who then gave them permission to search the house. The officers noted that they cleared the house of the defendant. The defendant had left the scene. So for these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. PD Kim.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Stivers is actually 38 years old. She was born and raised here in Georgia. Her education was up to 8th grade, and she is still pursuing her GED. And Your Honor, she is barely making her living with odd jobs and also food stamps from the government. So she's qualified for public defender services. For $1,000 good bond is like a no bond for her. There's another felony charge that she is waiting for the hearing. We would like to request for a signature on bond for this willful obstruction, so that way she can take care of the other matter. That's what we would like to request for. Thank you.
Okay. I am concerned about a little bit of the history there. Let me ask the state again, what date is there a charge of home invasion?
There is a charge of home invasion. Let me look up the date. That is an open case right now. So just give me a moment, I can search it.
Or pretrial, you listening?
I am.
What was the date of that open home invasion case?
The offense date on that is 9/19/2021.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and order the $1,000 surety bond. Pretty low bond. I'm gonna order a stay away from 504 Day Street. I assume that is not where the defendant lives. I'm gonna order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And that's all I'll order at this time.
Thanks, Your Honor.
All right.
Position 7 and 8, Hill.
All right, this is Rodney Hill, 23 CR 003631D. On position 7, he's charged with driving without a valid license and driving possession of an open alcohol container, both on June the 6th, 2023. And then I have a second case, position 8, 23 CR 003633D. Mr. Hill's charged with 1 count of criminal trespass, 2nd count of simple battery, family violence, and that offense date is June the 1st, 2023. Pre-trial.
This is 8th arrest. Last was back in October. Ag assault, simple battery, family violence, cruelty in the 3rd. He's on probation for those charges. 23 SC 1855587. That's out of Judge Ingram Court. 2016 misdemeanor possession of marijuana. 2015 failure to appear. 2014 domestic abuse battery. And it's the same victim. What is it?
It is pretrial. It is.
All right.
Okay, Your
State.
Honor, so for position number 7, that incident occurred yesterday on 1105 Holcomb Bridge Road. And this is where officers were conducting surveillance of the area on the defendant because he had active warrants for positions 8 charges. And so officers saw him pull out of the neighborhood onto Old Holcomb Bridge Road. And so officers stopped and detained the defendant for the active warrants. And when they stopped him, they discovered that the defendant was driving without a valid driver's license and that he had a Budweiser beer in the console of his car, and it was half full, Your Honor. For these reasons, for position 7, the state's recommendation is a $1,500 surety bond, $1,000 for the open alcohol container, and $500 for driving without a valid license, as well as no driving unless the defendant obtains a valid license, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Okay.
And then for position number 8, that incident occurred June the 1st of this year at 238 Chad's Ford Way. And this is where the defendant was upset with Miss Lovey Sanders, his girlfriend whom he lives with. He was upset with her because she was asking him to bring their car home so that she could go to work. And because the defendant was upset, he decided to strike the garage door with a hammer, causing dents into the garage door. And then when the defendant entered the house, he threw the car keys at Miss Sanders, hitting her in the shoulders, but officers noted that she didn't sustain any injuries. Before the defendant went upstairs, he had said out loud, "I'll kill everybody in this MFing house." And Miss Lovey told officers that while all of this was happening, she was on the couch pretending to be asleep with a blanket over her head. So when he went upstairs, she was able to call the police. And she also told officers, which was listed in the warrant, that her 2 children were upstairs sleeping while this was going on, Your Honor. And additionally, while pretrial stated, the defendant had a battery family violence conviction in Fulton County that on last month, May 23rd, 2023, and it was against Miss Lovey Sanders, and his disposition on that was 12 months probation and for him to have no further violent contact with Miss Sanders, and he was also to complete an FVIB. So for these reasons, and considering that he is here again with violent contact with Miss Lovey Sanders, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 cash bond, $2,000 for the simple battery, $1,000 for the criminal trespass, 1 day anger awareness. Again, no further contact with Miss Sanders, and to stay away from 238 Chad's Ford Way, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond, and a one-time police escort so that the defendant can get his belongings. Your Honor, our office was not able to get in contact with Miss Lovey. However, I would still like to sound for her if she's on the Zoom call.
Right. Give me your recommendation again on the bond.
Yes, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 cash bond. It breaks down to $2,000 for the simple battery, family violence, and $1,000 for the criminal trespass. And
Okay.
then do you have everything that you need me to read?
Yeah, I think one-time escort and no further contact and to stay away.
Yes, and the 1 day anger awareness course.
Okay. All right, thank you. PD Kim?
Yes, Mr. Hill is 31 years old. He was born in Florida and he has Ohio ID. And yet right now he has been here in Georgia for the last 2 years. Miss Lovey Sanders is actually his middle school sweetheart. They have been in relationship for about 20 years, ever since he was in the 8th grade. They have 2 children together, and yet Mr. Hill has total 7 minor children. They're all from like 1 year old to like 12 and 13 years old. All the money that he makes is actually going in to take care of his children, Your Honor. He's qualified for public defender services because he resides with 4 of those minor children. He's taking care of them, and he really is financially in so much challenge to take care of young children. He has a high school diploma. He also went to college in Louisiana. He could not complete to get a bachelor's degree because of financial hardships. However, he has been very educated. We would like to request for signature on bond, and I do understand that's kind of like a little too much a stretch, and yet we would like to request for $3,000 surety bond instead of cash bond, which will make him to have no bond whatsoever if it is cash bond. So we pray for signature on bond. I mean, surety bond, 3,000 surety bond. Thank you.
Okay. I'm a little concerned regarding the allegations in the case. So I'm going to order the $3,000 cash bond. I'm going to order stay away from 238 Chad's Ford Way. I'm going to order no further contact with the victim, Lovey Sanders. I'm going to order the one-time police escort, a law enforcement escort, to return to the property to retrieve his personal items. And I'm going to, well, I think that's it regarding this case. Is that correct?
This for number 8.
I'm sorry, no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond.
Will you
Yes.
break down position number 8? There are 2 charges.
And I'm sorry, 2,000 cash on the criminal trespass, 1,000 cash on the battery family violence, for a total of 3,000 cash.
Can he
Anything
have
else?
third party transfer for his children? Your Honor.
I don't like to get into that sometimes unless I'm pretty sure. I'm a little alarmed by the threat as well as the actions of defendants. So if the victim wants to try to work that out somehow without him violating the bond, let them do that on their own.
Yes, Your Honor. And then we have to get a disposition for position 7 for the defendant.
Right. And then on 7, I'm going to order that $1,500 surety bond, which will be $1,000 on the driving, possession of open container, $500 on the driving without a valid license for that $1,500 surety. I'm going to order no driving unless he has a valid driver's license from DDS. No drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond.
Mr. Hill, I know you raised your hand, and yet I strongly recommend you not to speak at all because you have a right to remain silent. You don't want to hurt your case. And unless it is directly related to the bond condition, please do not say anything.
All right. Anything else?
Nothing further from defense, Your Honor.
Okay.
Position 12, Martin.
I'm gonna take everybody at the same time.
All right. This is 23 CR 003635Y, Quentin Martin, charged with 1 count of battery family violence, offense date September the 23rd, 2022. Pretrial.
7 total. Last was 2017 possession of marijuana. He had a 2016 battery DV that was dismissed. That's it.
Next date.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred 9/23/2022 at 1023 Fair Street. And this is where Ms. Denise Robinson told officers that her boyfriend, the defendant, whom she lives with, got mad during an argument and punched her in the face, causing her swelling and a busted lip. This all started over her cell phone. The defendant took Ms. Robinson's cell phone and he wouldn't return it to her. He then offered to pay her $50 for the phone, yet she refused. And so he got mad and punched her. Your Honor, like pretrial said, there was a 2016 battery family violence arrest that was dismissed. I was unable to find out who the victim was in this case, but with this arrest, and it's a pattern of battery family violence that this defendant is showing. And so for these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond, 1-day anger awareness, no further contact with Miss Denise Robinson, to stay away from 1023 Fair Street, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond, as well as a one-time police escort for the defendant's belongings. Additionally, Your Honor, our office wasn't able to speak to Ms. Robinson. However, if she is on the Zoom call, I would still like to sound for her.
Okay. Is it Denise? Were you saying Z with a Z or D?
D, Denise.
D, Denise. All right, Miss Denise Robinson. Denise Robinson. All right, go ahead, Ms. McLeod.
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 33 years old. He is currently employed. He tells me that he works in a warehouse. This incident allegedly happened almost 7 or 8 months ago, I believe. It's been some time ago. And what my client tells me is that there was no actual physical altercation. They were just arguing, Your Honor. There was nothing about him hitting or anything like that. He tells me that both of them were just out at this particular location and they had both been drinking. My client tells me that since this incident, They continue to live together. They actually live together in Forest Park, and they have been living together since that time, Your Honor. I did try to call Denise, but I was unable to get a hold of her, Your Honor. But based on what my client tells me, that is where they live together. They share an email address, and you know they're a couple and have been, he tells me, since they were in the 11th grade. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm going to order the $3,000 surety bond. I'm going to order a stay away from 1023 Fair Street. Gonna order no further contact with the victim, Denise Robinson. I'm gonna order no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. I'm gonna order a one-time police escort or law enforcement escort back to the property to retrieve his personal item. I'm going to, oh, I guess that'll be all that I'll order at this time. Anything
Your
else,
Honor,
Council?
Yes, Your Honor, given the fact that this incident happened sometime last year, and my client tells me that they have been living together since, that it was just an argument they were having when they were out. They actually went home together and have been living together since without incident. Would the court consider putting a no further violent contact order instead of no further contact? This has been months and months ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot this was over a year ago. I will do no further violent contact.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, that'll conclude this case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Position number 14, Kate.
This is 23 CR 003636E, Justin Pate, charge of one count of battery family violence. Offense date is May the 6th, 2023. Pre-trial.
This is 10th arrest, 2013 ag assault conviction, 2011 probation, 2010 carrying pistol without a license, possession of a firearm by convicted felon conviction. That's it.
All right, state.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred May the 6th of this year at 1395 Hartford Avenue. And this is where Miss Tora Blackwell told officers that the defendant, who's her boyfriend, where they lived together. Well, no, I'm sorry. Miss Blackwell told officers that her boyfriend's brother, who is the defendant, that they all lived together at the defendant's mother's house, woke her up and asked, could she watch his child? And so when she refused, the defendant got mad at her and started slapping her in the face. The officer noted that Miss Blackwell experienced swelling to both sides of her face because of the slaps. The defendant then left the location. Our office was able to speak with Miss Blackwell, and she let us know that since this incident, she has moved from the residence. However, she did confirm the events in the warrant, but stated that an incident like this had never happened before. She also let us know that she's not in fear of the defendant and she still wants contact with him. She stated that the defendant takes care of his mother and that at that incident location, and that he needs to return home. The victim stated that she does go over to the residence occasionally also to help take care of the mother. So she would like no further violent contact. The state's recommendation for this, however, Your Honor, is a $3,000 surety bond, 1-day anger awareness course, no further contact with Miss Blackwell, and I would ask for a stay away only if, or with a one-time police escort to determine that Miss Blackwell no longer resides there. And if she doesn't, then the defendant can go back to the residence, Your Honor. Additionally, I'm asking for no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. And if Miss Blackwell is on the Zoom call, I would like to sound for her.
All right, Miss Blackwell. Miss Blackwell. All right, go ahead, Ms. McLeod.
Your Honor, my client is 43 years old. He is gainfully employed as a truck driver and has been doing that line of work for some time. He is the father of 5 minor children, all of whom he has custody of. They live with him. He has a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I would like to point out that the alleged victim is not someone that he's in any kind of intimate relationship with. I believe the warrant said she is a girlfriend of his brother or something like that. My client actually denies that this incident occurred. He tells me that on that date, he was actually working. So he says, you know, that didn't happen at all. I understand that my client does have some history, but the history that he has is remote, Your Honor. He hasn't been in any kind of trouble, or he has not been arrested for some time. Given the fact of that this is not an intimate partner situation, I would ask the court to consider giving my client a signature bond. While he does work, he also has 5 children that he's taking care of. And even based on the allegations of the state, that he's also taking care of his mother. So I would ask the court to take that into consideration in setting his bond. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm going to order the $3,000 surety bond. I'm going to order, and let me back up a second. I did not hear, do they have children together or no?
No,
No,
this
they
is
do
not
not.
an intimate partner relationship, Your Honor. The alleged victim is his brother's girlfriend.
Yes, they all live together at that residence.
Your Honor, this is based on what my client told me. This is his home. His mom lives with him, and so does his brother. So this is his home, and he has his 5 minor children living there. So to say he can't go back there, what's he gonna do with his children? This is his home.
Yes, Your Honor.
what I'm
And
She has moved, according to what the state said. The alleged victim has already told the state that she has moved from the location.
Well, we want to make sure of that and be careful regarding that, because it sounds like there are a lot of children there. I understand they're his children, but I don't know the ability of his mom to watch them. I guess that's what's going on right now since he's been arrested. And it's hard because people present certain things to me in court, but I have to still make sure that the victim is going to be safe. So the state has asked for the one-time escort, and as I have ordered in the past for the law enforcement that go there to determine with a search of that home, and I was talking to the other residents whether or not Miss Blackwell still lives there. I would hope that possibly they would give a number to the officer to contact Miss Blackwell once they get to that property, to ask her herself if she still lives there. I don't know if they'll be able to determine whether items are hers or not hers, if there's several people and other women living in that location. So right now, it's a stay away from it unless law enforcement is able to determine upon their arrival a search of the home and are talking to Ms. Blackwell to determine whether or not she still resides there. If she doesn't, then he can return there. If she does, it states she's still there, then he cannot live there and he'll have to live somewhere else. And the rest he'll have to sort out regarding his children. I don't know if I said no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. And that's all I'm going to order this time. I'm not going to order the anger awareness class. Anything else?
nothing from the state.
Nothing
Thank
from Your Honor. Your Honor, that concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
You're welcome, Your Honor. Have a good day.
You too.
Yes, we have number 16, Mr. Walker.
Okay. 23 CR 003638F, Elias Walker, charge of 1 count of simple battery, offense date June 22nd, 2022. Pre-trial.
I got first.
All right, state.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred June 22nd of last year, 2022, at 303 Hill Street. And this is where Mr. Victor Roker told police that he had allowed his son, the defendant, to spend the night at his home for just the night, but he told him that he would need to leave the next day. So when the next day came, Mr. Roker asked his son, why was he still there? And then the defendant became belligerent and he got into his father's personal space and began cursing at him and poking him with his finger, Your Honor. Then the defendant fled the scene. For these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond. We're asking for a one-day anger awareness course, no further contact with his father, Mr. Victor Roker, and to stay away from 303 Hill Street, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. Our office was unable to speak to Mr. Roker. However, if Mr. Roker is on the Zoom call, I would like to sound for him.
Right, Mr. Roker, Victor Roker. Don't think he's on. PD Kim.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Walker is 21 years old. This happened about a year ago, Your Honor. After this incident, they have been having contact. They have not had any other incidents or altercation. They are fine right now. I wanted to have Mr. Victor to come to the Zoom hearing, but I was not able to contact him either. Mr. Walker says 303 Hill Street is his own place. So I don't think that he should be away from his own place, Your Honor. So if the law enforcement officer visit confirms that Mr. Victor Rocker does not reside there, I want my client to be able to return home. He is currently working for the landscaping company, and he graduated from high school. He was very active doing acting, band, and basketball. He was a very good student, and this was the one of the few incidents that he was involved, and it's been quite a bit long time ago. We would like to request for a signature on bond and no further violent contact for these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And so Mr. Walker has given us a separate residential address other than the incident location.
No, he resides at 303 Hill Street, Southeast, Your Honor.
And he's been there since the date of the incident.
Previously, even before that incident.
Your Honor, because this was the incident location that's listed on the warrant, the state has no problem with there being a police escort to make sure whether to determine whether Mr. Roker lives there. If he lives there, then the state is asking for a stay away. But if not, he can return. The defendant can return to that address.
I'm a little apprehensive on
Yes.
that. He's 21 years old. I doubt he
That he-
owns this house. I don't know. Can you ask Mr. Walker if who owns his house?
Mr. Walker?
Yes, it's me, my dad and my stepmom, they own a house, but I've been living there since middle school. So I have my own space now. I have my own apartment now, but all my belongings is still there though. Like,
Oh, so you don't reside there. You reside somewhere else.
yeah, I was out somewhere else, but all my personal belongings are still there though.
Okay. Well, I'll order you to have an order to go back to get your personal belongings. All right, I'm going to order a $4,000 surety bond through pretrial per judge.
Is
I'm
it
going-
surety bond or a signature bond?
I'm sorry, signature bond, sorry.
Thank you, Your
$4,000 signature bond through pretrial. I'm going to order the one-day anger awareness course through pretrial. I'm going to order a stay away from 303 Hill Street. I'm going to order a law enforcement escort to go back with Mr. Walker to get his personal belongings. Mr. Walker, make sure you arrange for that law enforcement escort to go back with you. You can't go back alone. And I said 1 day anger awareness. No further violent contact with Mr. Victor Roker since it's been over a year. And I think that's it. Anything else, counsel?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, that'll conclude this case. Who do we have next?
This is number 13, from what I understand, where their appearance. And Mr. Walker posted bond.
Okay, what'd you say?
Mr. Walker posted bond,
Okay, so 17 is out.
and the other one waived, 13. That's what he said.
Okay, and 13 waived. Okay. And that was the last one we have, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I just saw, oh, those are some of the other ones we've already seen. All right, are we ready for position 13? 23 CR 003573D, Vanessa McGee, charged with 1 count of criminal trespass. June 3rd is the offense date pretrial.
It's a 5th arrest. Last was 2004 for arson, reckless endangerment, and interference resisting an officer. Before that was like a 1997 assault.
Okay. All right, state.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred June the 3rd of this year at the Greyhound bus station at 232 Forsyth Street. And this is where officers were flagged down by the Greyhound security, advising that the defendant was there earlier that day causing chaos. Specifically, they told officers that the defendant had swung on a security officer. So they told her that she could not get on the bus, and they called the police. And so when the officer arrived, the defendant and told the defendant that she had to leave the bus station, she ignored the officer and she continued to walk on to the customer service line. And then that's where she was detained. The state's recommendation for these reasons is a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, and to stay away from 232 Forsyth Street, that Greyhound bus station, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. PD Wills.
Your Honor, no objection to the signature bond. However, I would request that the bond go through the jail. Miss McGee is 65 years old. She's originally from Connecticut. She was on her way back from visiting in Louisiana. And that's why she was on the Greyhound bus. She has been incarcerated since the 3rd of June, and she just wants to go back home. She does have enough money to get her back to Connecticut, and does plan to take the Amtrak. And Mr. Howard spoke with her in person at the jail today. So I would just request a signature on bond through the jail.
Okay. What I'm concerned about is her coming back to court. Are there no significant ties here? She's just visiting. And if she'll be able to get back.
She, in speaking with Mr. Howard, she stated that she would. She has very limited income and resources. I would ask that she not be penalized for that, Your Honor, and especially in light of the fact that how long she's already been incarcerated.
Well, it's just been
Your
a couple
Honor,
of days, right?
Since the 3rd.
Okay,
4 days.
today's the 7th. I'm not messing with you, PD Wills. I thought I was looking at it and I thought maybe I'm misunderstanding. It's just a couple of days, and I do understand we've had an incident, and that is a familiar mode of transportation. So I want to make sure that, again, she can get back. She can call in to report to pretrial.
Oh, okay.
I'm not asking her to return to do that. But let me hear from Deputy Falk before I give my ruling.
Thank you, Your Honor. PD Wills, did you indicate that she's taking Amtrak?
That's what she stated when she spoke with Mr. Howard. at the
Can she
jail.
provide proof of that?
No, she's been in jail.
No,
She's
no,
just
no.
saying that she will
Once,
not.
in other words, once she is gone,
Oh.
once she gets on the train, can she send you proof of that?
I don't know. I mean, possibly. I can ask Mr. Howard. I'm not sure how. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's got to buy a ticket, so she'll get a receipt.
Correct.
Somebody's
I don't know
gotta
how
buy a
that would be
ticket.
relayed to her. I mean, her presence is waived. I'm not sure if Mr. Howard will have the opportunity to speak with her before, but I don't know if pretrial if y'all can make that a condition of her release, and then she can just send that over to pretrial.
How's she gonna do that? This should go through the jail anyway. She's from Connecticut. She don't even live here, so.
Well,
Save everybody the
if
hassle.
I can ask for the court's indulgence, if we can agree to a pretrial services bond, I will send an email to Your Honor, to PD Wills, PD Howard, and ASG Bickerstaff that I feel like may resolve this case going forward.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
understood.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to order this to go through pretrial, and then we'll have some type of disposition. That'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial. And if there's nothing that is concluded, then she will be able, and I'll put this in my order, to report via telephone to pretrial, Miss Bridgewater.
Okay,
And that if it's not resolved, she will provide a receipt of her Amtrak travel. And to stay away from the Greyhound bus station at 232 Forsyth Street. And no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or guns while on bond. I think that will conclude this case. Anything else, counsel?
No, Your Honor, and thank you.
All right, thank you. We're all done, I think.
I believe we are.
Pre-trial, do we have anything else that we need to take up?
I'm ready to go.
I knew you would have a nice, wonderful answer.
It's always one, always one.
One in the group, one in the crowd.
Yes. Okay, well, here we go. Once again, the reset date for SAP calendar is June the 20th. Position number 1 is reset further notice with a $5,000 SOB through pretrial per judge. Position 2 is going to the SAP calendar with a $3,000 good bond. Position 3, reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial per judge. 4, SAP calendar with a $4,000 good bond. Position 5 is going to the SAP calendar with a $3,000 total good bond. Position 6, reset further notice with a $4,000 total SOB through pretrial per judge. Position 7 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,500 good bond. Position 8 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $3,000 cash bond. Position 9 is going to the SAP calendar with a $2,000 good bond. Position 10, SAP calendar with a total $1,500 good bond. Position 11, SAP calendar with a $3,000 good bond. Position 12, SAP calendar with a $3,000 good bond. 13 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. I'm assuming that's going to be per judge.
Yeah.
Okay, 14 is going to the SAP calendar with a $3,000 good bond. 15 reset to the SAP calendar with a $1,000 good bond. 16 is reset further notice with a $4,000 SOB through pretrial per judge. And position 17 is reset further notice as the defendant has been released. Are there any questions, comments, or otherwise?
Nope, think you got it.
Okay, everyone have a good one.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.